Sometimes it's like that, and a rough ride in Lincoln, but Michigan finds a way to pick up their 21st win of the season. 49-46. It's a final in Lincoln. Welcome into the Michigan basketball post-game live show. We're here after every Michigan game. It was, you get to March, and we're pretty close to March. You always say survive in advance. You don't apologize for winning and things like that. But there was not a lot of things to like about this game, except Michigan won. And, that's what you take away. They got to win. If you watch this game and you are watching this post-game show live, you probably thought Michigan was going to lose this game. You thought they were going to lose it in the first half. It was very ugly. You thought that they were going to lose it the majority of the second half, and then they almost did lose it by missing a front end of a one-on-one, and Nebraska coming down and getting the shot that they would want, down one with a wide open three-point shot, but they weren't able to connect that, and Michigan just hangs on. And they get the victory. So you don't apologize for winning. You pull out things like you've seen a lot of games where you played pretty decently and ended up on the other side. And so, that's it. They got a lot to work on. The thing that I take away from this game is that they were without Sam Walters again, and they were without Reuben Jones, who had been into the starting lineup. So they had to go back to Roddy Gale. And I don't know, they played, and so they had to play LJ Case on a lot. They were playing, I was going to call him Scottie Pippen. They were playing Justin Pippen. And those guys, for a lot of it, Kason ended up hitting a real big three. But a lot of the game, he looked like that he shouldn't be playing, that he shouldn't have been out there. And I don't know, the way Michigan, I think they could look back and look at a lot of the coaching decisions coming out of timeout, some of the shots that they took, didn't know what the shot clock was. One time getting a 22-foot three-pointer with like 15 seconds to go in the shot clock. So a lot of crazy stuff like that. Fouling, Michigan has done this a few times. Dusty May with Michigan up 3. I don't remember what game it was earlier this year, but there were 16 seconds on the clock, and Michigan was fouling. And you watch enough games. I know you say the book is under 5 seconds where you then foul, but there's wiggle room on either side. But double digit over 10 seconds, you'd think no, that's not what you want to do. But Michigan has done that repeatedly, but they've won these games. So I'll walk through this one and read. I see we have some feedback. Game number 27 on the year with Michigan. The new poll comes out today. Michigan falls. They were at 12 after the loss to Michigan State. They moved back to 15. They were in Lincoln, and they were a 1.5 point favorite, and they covered. No Reuben Jones is mentioned. So Roddy Gale was back in the starting lineup where he was the majority of the year. No Sam Walters. He has that lower back issue, and this was his 4th missed game. But a very ugly first half, and it set the tone for the game. Maybe it's those Adidas uniforms that Nebraska wears. I'm older, so when I give my opinion about uniforms, there's always one person that's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Those are great. In football. So I remember when Maryland came out with their, you don't understand. That's that's how Maryland does. I don't know, whatever. It's just my opinion. Those are the worst uniforms. They're just sitting in a room thinking like, let's put these out there. The kids will really want to buy them. Boy, these are fresh. No, those are terrible. But maybe they play well in Nebraska. I don't know. I've never been to Nebraska, but Michigan was up 4 early on. And then Nebraska was up 4. Bryce Williams was knocking down shots, a bunch of threes. He scored first 11, 13 points in the game for the Cornhuskers. Then, Michigan got up 5, and U of M was up 4 at the half, 25-21. A stat that jumped out in the first half is that Michigan had only hit one three-pointer. They were 1 of 14 from downtown, and that cold shooting would continue into the second half. And you could call this one whatever you want, dogfight, rock fight. It was a tough watch. But U of M did look like they were going to survive. They got up. Danny Wolf hit a field goal. He hit a three, and then LJ Kason hit a three-pointer with a little bit over 4 minutes to go. It put Michigan up 6. It was their largest lead of the game. And the way Nebraska was scoring, you thought that was going to be enough, but it was not. Even after a flagrant on Vlad, he misses both of the free throws, and then Michigan gets the ball, and then a quick turnover. I was like, wow, this thing really is up and down affair. Like, this is ugly. This had the writing seemed like it was on the wall there a few times, and then Roddy Gale did make some free throws, but then missing the front end of one-on-ones, one-and-ones is a recipe to lose games. I mean, you got to be able to get up there and knock down the free throws. Everybody knows that. Donaldson missed the front end of a one-on-one. That gave Nebraska that shot, the open three, to win it late, but they were unable to connect. Trey was able to get the board, leak out, and get fouled. He did hit those free throws at the end. And it ends up with Michigan surviving 49-46. Yeah, it was ugly, but it was a W. And so if you're one of those people that's just like, it was a W, it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm fine with that. And you're right. In the end, don't analyze the game. Don't talk about the game. Just go to, it was a W. Let's move on. Let's go to the next game. Michigan's got 3 home games. These are the kind of games you see teams lose all the time, and they're able to survive it. Now they've got 3 home games to see if they can set themselves up for possibly still in the running for the regular season crown of the Big Ten. Play of the game, I went to LJ Kason when he hit that 3 that put Michigan up 6. There was 4:25 on the clock. After that, there was a little bit, I don't know, a little mini meltdown, but Nebraska was able to come back and get it to within 1 and had that shot to win it. So you can say the play of the game was that missed 3-pointer by Nebraska, but that's the kind of game it was. So looking for something like that. When I look through the numbers, nothing, I don't know, is there going to be anything that looks good? Gale had a dozen, 12-5-1. Trey Donaldson, 11-8-4. He's got to do better. It has him as 2 of 2 from the free throw line. I thought he was the one that missed the front end of the one-on-one late. So I don't know. Here's a double-double for Danny Wolf, 10-10. But Danny Wolf wasn't around for a lot of the first half. Just wasn't there. Then he got into foul trouble. This seemed like this was like one of his worst games of the year. Vlad was good early, but then wasn't so hot late. 8-10 for mad Vlad. Maybe get a little mad at Vlad if you're a Michigan fan tonight. Damari Burnett made some key plays, threw some passes away. Was the turnovers? 4 turnovers for Burnett, 3 for Wolf, 3 for Donaldson. The bench, Cheddar, not much of a factor. Did drill 1-3. Kason hit that big 3 that put Michigan up 6, and that looked pretty good. Usually I put those numbers up at the bottom of the screen. Michigan 1 of 14 in the first half. They end up 5 of 27 from downtown. And let's see, they only shoot 8 of 13 from the free throw line, and they turn it over 14 times. None of those numbers are very good. Again, looking at this game, if there's something that, if you don't like the negativity, I think that you just turn this off and say, hey, I'm just going to Thursday when Michigan plays again. I'm just glad that they won. Let's just focus on that. And I think that's understandable if you're somebody that's like that. Rip Star putting some numbers out there. He's got a trash can, and he says the offensive performance, 29% shooting. He's right, 29.5% shooting, 18.5% from downtown, 61% from the free throw line. Calls it pathetic. Players need to be held accountable. Well, as far as holding them accountable, you can call them out about how they played, and that's holding them accountable. All right, so that's it. And I don't think you need to call them names, but let's see. Michigan Go Blue 1234 calls it a great win. And he's got the emoji where you're blowing smoke out of your nose, like, hey, a win's a win kind of emoji. I think that's the one it is. You're standing on your business of getting a victory. He said good teams win these types of grinded out games. Definitely to start shooting the ball better if we want to beat Maryland and MSU. Yeah, this doesn't mean that they're going to play like this the rest of the way, hopefully. And that's something positive. Rip asking a question of how Vlad only gets 8 shots. He needs at least 15. He's our best scoring threat and only consistent player this season. No one is a reliable shooter on this team. Nebraska did a pretty good job fronting him, but I would agree. And then Vlad, they were doubling him. They were forcing the ball out of his hand. He was good early, but I think that the idea of getting him the ball more, getting him into some screen and rolls, because they were trying to post him up. There were a few times that I thought, yeah, look for him more. I don't think Michigan did look enough for him. They looked, and he was covered. Then they would start kicking it around. Kick it around, get back, repost it, and, see if you can get him over there. Screen across, get him down there. I think they could have done a better job of getting Vlad the ball. And there was a lot of this kind of talk during the game that this was embarrassing, that both teams set basketball back 30 years. And yeah, you watch enough basketball, you see clunkers, even with good teams. I mean, Nebraska might make the tournament. They've got some good wins. They're right there. If you look at the bracketology, they've got, it's not like they can just sit back and lose out or anything. They need to they've got some work to do. But they're sitting right there on the bubble. But it was a tough one to watch again. Go Blue 1234 saying the performance was bad, but everyone is great at this time of year because we want to win the Big Ten regular season. Yeah, so the argument goes back and forth. I think that this is kind of the crux of this game. It was, and for people that watched it, they understand. If you didn't watch it, you have Rip saying this was a performance that was horrendous. Hold the players accountable. Why is Cheddar taking a 3 with 1 minute in the game when we're only up by 1? It almost cost us the win. Yeah, how about out of a timeout? And the timeout before that, I like Dusty May was calling the timeout. You call the timeout, and there was like no time on the shot clock. The players, they didn't recognize it. They didn't have very good court awareness, and LJ Kayson had to throw up like a 28-footer. That was a complete bust out of a timeout. And then the next one is the one that Rip's talking about. They have at least 15. I think there were 16 seconds on the shot clock. The first pass goes to Wolf. He throws it up to Cheddar, who's guarded at 23 feet, and he decides that he's just going to throw one up like there was no time on the clock. I mean, it was, so yeah, what was Cheddar doing? I don't know. He was just throwing one up. He did not have good time, space, court awareness, anything. It was bad. Can they learn from that? Can they find some situational awareness that's going to help them? They've been in a lot of close games. And we keep saying this. Are these close games? Is it going to help them in some situations? Did it help them? Look, I go back. Their best win was probably winning at Wisconsin earlier in the year. If you remember, did they miss 2, 3 front ends of 1-1s down at Wisconsin and was still able to hang on and win that game? That was a recipe for a loss for sure. They won that. There's a couple other games that you could go through and you say, well, they did not execute the way that you would want, or you would think that a conference champion contender would play, and yet they did win those games. And tonight, the lack of execution, awareness, coaching across the board, nobody really played well. They were giving it away. They kind of blew this game, and yet they won it. And so this is where you go back and forth. You've got on the one side MGB saying, hey, it doesn't matter. They got the win, and you survive. You get home, and you flush this one, even though you get the win. And, you live to stay alive for the conference championship. And you think about beating Rutgers on Thursday, and you got 3 home games. So they get back home. And then on the other side, you've got Rip saying, look, what's going on with the coach? Also question the coach. I would question him why he's fouling with so much time. It's happened more than once this year. One time, you can say, hey, we're coaching our players, and they make, they get in there. But there was earlier that I said 16 seconds on the clock on one of these games, and Michigan was fouling up 3. Way too much time. I'm going to tell you guys, let's get it down. Most players know when you're on offense and it's a tie game, what do? They wait to get it down to about 8 seconds. It's almost universal before you get into your action and before you take a last shot, thinking that, hey, if you miss, you're going to get a chance maybe to tip it in. And when you're up 3 and you're thinking about fouling, if you want to go, then and I like that. I think we've watched enough games. That's the way to do it. That's winning basketball. But you don't do it when there's 16, 15, 13, 10 seconds. So you don't do it then. You wait till it gets down to like 5 seconds. You want Dusty to say, hey, that there's some. I asked Dusty about fouling up 3 late in the games earlier in the year. I think it was the Wake Forest, like the second week. And he said the data indicates that it's about even whether you want to play it out or foul. And I didn't ask him for that. I've never looked at the data that he was talking about, but it is recognized that smart ball now from people that watch the games, that's the way you do it. But you're doing it with only a couple seconds to go, not like how Michigan has done it. So that's it. And then here it is coming together. Rip Go Blue saying, look, he feels the frustration. Got to play a lot better offensively. And, they can't miss the layups. Mr. Martini's not shaking things up here. He's not trying to stir it up. He's saying you can't win championships with bad basketball. And here's the challenge to Rip. If you guys even like the live, hey, he gets it done. This is a Michigan Go Blue 1, 2, 3, 4 brings it, gets it done. But then we can just go through the numbers again, and it's kind of the same stuff that we get here. Let's get to some other people that are jumping in. Chase says, glad we got the win, but we can't play games like this come March. I think that's said perfectly. How about glad Michigan won, but they can't play like this on Thursday against Rutgers. And then, in March. But no, that's hammering it home. I don't know if Michigan specifically has a shooting coach, but who's drawing up the plays coming out of timeouts? I think that's a question that we could ask Dusty May. Rip's going to get on the blue cheese, old cheddar, not cheddar cheese. Yeah, K-Sound 1 for 7. K-Sound didn't look good tonight, and then he stuck a big 3. Rip's going through all the numbers. Yeah, the numbers were bad. Going through all of them. Here's Hadley. The end of the game gave me flashbacks to the Minnesota game earlier when they hit their 3-point shot and won the game. Yeah, good point, Hadley. That was the overtime game. Yeah, they totally escaped with this one. They're probably picking up their post-game meal right now, taking their bus to get on their flight. And I don't think it's good. I don't think it's a jovial mood. You lose a game on the road, there's no talking on the bus and on the airplane. I mean, there's some very small, like, hey, you got a pen, or can I don't know what else you're going to ask. Pass me a Gatorade or something. But you win, there's some laughs, and, having some fun. Let's turn some music up. Let's get turned up. I don't think they're getting turned up. I don't think they're partying on the way to the charter plane. I think they know. I think Dusty probably told them after, hey, we won. Well, let's not act. Let's dial it in a little bit. Let's do it. Oh, was it Gale? Okay, there you go. CK says it was Gale. I was reading that. I blew that one. So, I'm having a bad night. I thought it was Trey. Gale, the good free throw shooter. And now that you say that, I think that I can picture it. So thanks, CK, for always looking for that correct information. You ever hear me saying something where I'm kicking it, not missing something? Yeah, correct me. That's what I'm trying to do, trying to get that information out there for people so they'll know. Hagan says it was tough to watch. Yeah, it was. Matt saying they really missed Walters. When will he be back? Well, he's got a back, what is it called? Lower back ailment. So I don't know. He's missed. This is his 4th game. They're not really saying, well, hopefully we get him back by March. They're not saying things like that. Teams don't say things about injuries like that, but I haven't seen a timeline. I'm sorry about that on Walters. CK is talking to all you homers. That's kind of all of us. Let's see. USM is playing like a team that's going to be waxed by a 12 seed. Well, if they play like tonight, CK, and they're shorthanded, you're right. They are playing like that. And yet, there's also the side where if they could get healthy, let's not even think about the regular season championship or the Big Ten tournament championship. Those are nice. Those are nice things, but they have players, if they could peak and come together in March in the NCAA tournament, yeah, they could, and it would be nice to be able to get a 3 seed. Hell, even a 2 seed. But you want to be, I would say, a 3 or a 4. And then you want to make the Sweet 16. You want to be playing for the Elite 8 or the Final 4. You want to get to that next weekend. And this team is capable. I mean, so it's always like that. Not always. I'm sorry. It's not always like there's a lot of teams that are in a situation where you get in there and you say, yeah, they could win. This team could win 2-3 games. Maybe even 4. 4 might sound like a stretch after you watch tonight. There's a lot of teams that are like that. Michigan is one. It feels like they need to get their players back, Jones and Walters. There have been times where you've had some guys that have come in late in the year as freshmen and have done a nice job. Who was it? The freshman who couldn't make a three to save his life, and he went to Arizona. Frankie ended up getting the start in the tournament, and he wasn't really. It wasn't like you'd say really good all year round, and couldn't shoot. And then he came tournament time, and he played pretty well. All right, let's take a few more here. We got a couple other things to get to. Too much time getting into our offense with the clock winding down. Mr. Martini asking if I covered the missed foul call on Trey, fouled by Nebraska, getting the ball in the review. Horrible sequence. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? If we talk about missed fouls, if we had Fred Hoiberg on here, the mayor would be like, "Hey, you want to talk about calls? Let's go over this one, and this one." Oh, yeah, he got fouled, but even looking at it, it wasn't so egregious where you're like, "Oh my God!" I mean, if you're a Michigan fan, probably. I don't know. You look at these. It's one of the most difficult things. It's a very frustrating thing for me to watch. And they've got to do something to the grind at the end of these games where these guys are over there watching the monitor, and then I'm watching it, and you got two guys with their hands on the ball, and the ball's spinning. You can't even tell what's going on, and it's like this with almost all of them. If they can't tell within the first 30 seconds. It's always this argument about you want to get it right. Doesn't matter how much time. And then the other part is the games come to a screeching halt. And you know what you do on the playground? When somebody calls something and no, it's off, you shoot one. And people understand that you just live with it because they're calls like that. They have to understand if they can't look at it and determine irrefutable video evidence within 30 seconds, put a shot clock on them, then they have to go with the call on the floor. Enough of this. What was it the one year? Was it Wisconsin? Was it the year Virginia won it? And the ball is at half court and it goes up and it's off. They've spent like 10 minutes and they determine that, so the ball's turning this way and they get, oh, yeah, wait a second. It was off his fingernail. It's just enough with that. I say it's destroying the game or anything, but are there really people that are like, you got to watch it for 5 minutes to make sure you get that right? And I don't know if they ever get it right. They need to get some challenges in there. And to Mr. Martini's point, you don't burn your challenges in the first half. You wait to the end of the game to a play like Trey Donaldson, and you say, yeah, well, would they have? That would be the question for you, Mr. Martini. And I would say the announcer certainly thought that there was a foul, but they knew that they couldn't do anything. Will they, if they put in a challenge, would they have said, okay, yep, that was definitive, irrefutable? I don't know. You say that, and then you get to those points, and then they're like, nope, Nebraska ball. Dave asks, how would I like to be a Nebraska fan and pack the arena only to lose to a team that plays like tonight? Refund anyone. Yeah, the Nebraska fans are going home, and it's worse because they're like, everyone played horrible, and we had it. Nebraska needed to win that game. Nebraska is winning that game. They're thinking about getting into the tournament. They're at least Lenardi had them as what it was the last 4 buys. I mean, they're right on the bubble. Now they're probably in the play-in game. Thank you, Chase, is talking about like and subscribe the podcast. Thank you. We'll do it. I get it. Kelvin is jumping in. Kelvin Hobbs. Great cartoon. Refs really let this game get out of hand. There's physical games, and then there's mauling. Yeah, I don't know. Every game seems like it's out of hand. Every game I watch, the fans think that the refs botch them and that they're horrible, and they make a bunch of different terrible calls against their team that they like. But I think that I mean there were some missed calls. I said Hoiberg there in the first half, he was beside himself with some of the calls. That's it. Yeah, this is where I thought that it might not have been Michigan's night. Wolf hit a three. He hit a field goal. Kason hits the three to put Michigan up 6 with 4:25 to go. And you're thinking that's going to be enough. And then Vlad gets fouled, and they call a flagrant on Nebraska. So Vlad goes to the line and misses both of his free throws. And then Burnett steps out of bounds like immediately, right in front of the Michigan bench. And you're thinking, this is not. This is the kind of thing where it's not going to be Michigan's night. And that should have ended the game right there. But, of course, it didn't. Well, maybe Ken Pom is onto something where, a lot of people are complaining like, why Michigan's number 12, they were last week, and Ken Pom's got them in the 20s. Ken Pom, after Michigan's loss to Michigan State, has Michigan at number 24 in his rankings. Still the 5th-ranked Big Ten team. I looked at Joe Lunardi, and this was not at so if this is from 2/21, that's a couple days ago, had Michigan as a 4 seed in the tournament, 12 teams in the SEC, 10 teams in the Big Ten. Michigan's going to be in. Again, you'd like to see them, as we said here, sure, you'd like to see a 2 seed. Heck, you'd love to see a 1 seed. I don't think anybody's going to predict that. But how about a 3 seed? And they're still alive until they're knocked out of winning the regular season in the Big Ten. That's still something we're going to be here and we're going to watch and look for. And then after that, of course, the conference tournament, and you're thinking about that seeding. And so I'm thinking about both of those things, and I'm thinking about a 3 seed. That's how I'm rolling right now. How are you rolling? Are you a member of the Maize and Blue Review? Question. Why not? And let's check the upcoming schedule. And it is brought to you by the Maize and Blue Review. This is a chance for you to give yourself or that Michigan fan in your life the gift of the Maize and Blue Review for 2025. Go to michigan.rivals.com to get that done. And so with that schedule, Michigan now gets ready for 3 home games, starting Thursday against Rutgers. And a very winnable game, 9 o'clock on Peacock. Woo! Very winnable game. I feel like Michigan should win that game against Rutgers. And then Sunday, a game against Illinois. Like Illinois has been scuffling a little. I think they got smacked around by Duke over the weekend. I saw a little bit of that. But Harper's back and for Rutgers, so that's maybe not going to be as easy as you might think. Illinois, that one doesn't seem like it's going to be easier than Maryland. That's not going to be easy. None of these are going to be easy, but all 3 are winnable. I do feel like Michigan is going to lose one of these games, but I also feel like Michigan State's going to lose one of theirs, and I feel like if I'm predicting, and I'm predicting right now, that Michigan will head into their final game of the regular season up at the Breslin Center with a chance to get a piece, if they win that game, a piece of the regular season championship. And you could say, I want it all, outright. Yes, of course, you would like that. And if they won on Friday and we were sitting here, you'd be saying the same thing. Yeah, but you still have the chance to do that. Go ahead and win all the rest of them, and see Michigan State drop one, and they could do it. But I'm just making my prediction about that last game. I think that they will have a shot at doing that. So that's how I feel when it comes down to it. All right. Yeah, Mr. Martini talking about Peacock. Yeah, Peacock is frustrating. It aggravates me. I don't go in thinking, oh, I'm going to get triggered by Peacock, and I don't know how it is for you. I have an upstairs TV that's a lot smarter than my other TV in the living room, and the one in the living rooms where I watch most of my games, it's connected to a Fire Stick. And the bottom line is that it takes it takes this thing to fire up. It's like an old jalopy or something. It takes 5 minutes, seemingly, for this thing to crank up and then land on Peacock. And then Peacock, it's not the greatest. The ability to maneuver around. Okay, sometimes, I can see it, I can watch it, but then the screen goes blank for like 60 seconds. And then it just pops up and like, oh yeah, there you are. And I know other people have the same thing. And it's not user friendly. And this is 2025. Peacock's charging you an arm and a leg to watch these games. And then it's hard to get there. It sounds like you're listening to a video game audio when you're watching it. And then when they do improve, they had a sideline reporter for the last game that they were doing at Peacock. They threw it down to her and you couldn't hear what she was saying. Like, why are they even trying to have a sideline reporter? They can't even get the audio right for the two announcers that they have. Then they can't. This is NBC, right? Peacock. I get that, that there's only so many boner pills or whatever they do, like off-brand commercials that they like throw to NBC. I'm surprised that they don't put strip clubs and stuff on there, but they'll come down and they won't even have time left to put or commercials to fill their block. So they just go black, and then they throw up a test pattern, a Peacock, and they'll be like, "We'll be with you shortly." What? How about show how about advertise one of the games that you have coming up that maybe I'll watch? I'm just over sitting here watching a test pattern for like a minute, because then I feel like you're going to log me off again. And oh yeah, you know how they log me off? Once in a while, when I'm watching a game, you pause or you like go back to watch a play. You want to see it again. It's difficult to do on Peacock. I haven't mastered it yet, and I'm going too far back. I can't really do it. But the thing I hate the most is the last time I was doing it, my wife came home with some groceries. And so I paused it. I was going to go help her bring them in. And I did. And it only took like 5 minutes. Not too tough, carrying a couple bags. But I go back to watch the game and it logs me off after I pause it for 5 minutes. How about, so my regular TV, I could pause that sucker. I think I could pause it all day long. How about if I pause Peacock, it doesn't log me off after 2 minutes or certainly 5 minutes? How about that, Peacock? Can you do that? Yeah, well, it's nice. Now you have Peacock. I mean, how is it for golf? I do have the Fire Stick on that. Maybe it's my Fire Stick and not Peacock, or Fire Stick and Peacock together. I don't like it. Whatever it is. But you know what I do like? March Madness. And Who did I see? It's one of those guys from Pardon My Take, the dude from Wisconsin, who always seems like he's uh, pretty entertaining. The big dude. He's like, this is the worst time of the sports calendar. And so he was making it was a pretty hot take because immediately everybody would say, are you familiar with the months of June, July, and August? And so he was making a case. And so June, you could make a case that the NHL and NBA playoffs, the finals are going to be there. You get a golf major in there. I was like, okay. But how about July? How about the month of July? And his point is that once football's done and you have the NBA and NHL All-Star breaks, there's nothing, there. And then he said, because basketball is only good during March Madness. And when football's over, I do make that transition. And sometimes it's easier than other times. This year, the first Saturday, they had, 10 games that I wanted to watch. And yet I found myself not watching every game. I was like, wow, this is weird. But now I'm there. I'm looking. There's a game at 12. There's a game at 1 or 2 or 3. I mean, there's 4 or 5 games, and I'm going to watch a lot of them. And it's pretty exciting. It's a great time. I mean, if you're a college basketball fan, and I was thinking, if you really like March Madness, and there's no one that likes March Madness, the tournament, as much as me. You might like it as much, but you don't like it more than me. I mean, it is the first 4 days in a row. There's really nothing that touches it annually in sports. The opening weekend for college football comes close because they throw out a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and they're rolling football games all the way through that. Of course, you have the opener in there. It's close, but nothing from noon till midnight for 4 straight days. And it's and it always, every time of Sunday, it'll feel like I don't know anything about running a marathon. I don't even like driving my car 26 miles, I'm thinking about running it, but I feel like I've run a marathon at this Sunday. I've got all these commercials and games running through my head, and I've just watched, I don't know, what did I watch? 72 hours worth of basketball, and I'm sitting there, but I always think, man, it's always worth it. It always pays off. It always comes through. There's never like there could be an afternoon session where there's there wasn't the greatest of games. There wasn't the monumental upset. There wasn't something where you're sitting there by the edge of your seat. It was kind of went by kind of chalk or whatever. It's just, but it almost, if that happens, then the night session goes bananas, and then you get the next morning, the next afternoon session to be crazy. But so it always, every single time it happens. So that's where I'm sitting here on this Monday night. It's 11:11. Let's make a wish for Michigan. I wish that Michigan basketball gets healthy. And I wish Michigan could play like they played out on the West Coast when they went out there and they beat USC and UCLA. Vlad Golden was dominant. And Danny Wolf was bringing it. And then, Trey Donaldson came up big out there on the Golden Coast too. And that's a big 3. And Cheddar and Burnett, they're the kind of players that you can win with. Each of them, the way they can contribute. But they need that Ruben and Roddy. They're relying on the freshmen, and they need Walters to get back. So getting healthy, that's my wish. Get healthy and play like they did out in Cali. First things first, beat Rutgers on Thursday night. We'll be here. That'll be a late night, but we'll tackle it and we'll review it. We'll see you over. Speaking of review, we'll see you over on the Maize and Blue review all day and all night. We'll be talking Michigan hoops. Maybe people will have more of a. You'll have maybe I was going to say more of a calm down, but I don't think so. I think this show and the feedback kind of got the essence of what happened tonight. It was a fugly game, but one that Michigan looked like they were going to lose a bunch of different times, and then it looked like they were going to just hit a couple shots and then just be able to survive it, only to then give it back to where they were hanging on again by missing some free throws, the front end of a one-on-one by Gale. But in the end, they win it 49-46. And guess what? They're still alive, and they did not lose it. I guess that's the one. They didn't lose it. They won it. And they're sitting there with 21 wins. And they're 13-3, and they're still playing for a Big Ten regular season title with just 4 games remaining. There's your bright side. That's the bright side. Well, Ferris getting in, he doesn't care. You know what, Ferris? Sure, but this is what you say, but I think that you have to add to this. Just win, sure. But if you play anything like that they would play today in the way they coached and the way all of the players play and the way they didn't have good recognition and not being able to hit big shot, all of that, then I think you're going to get to the end and we could be sitting here and saying, there were signs. There were a lot of signs that this team. So there's some of that that's true. Hey, yeah, they won. But got to learn from it, got to play better. All right, thanks so much for watching. We will talk with you after Thursday night's game on this very feed Wednesday at 2 o'clock on Good Afternoon Michigan football and basketball. Everybody have a great night. 49-46, Michigan wins it. That'll do it. Good night.